Hey, everybody.
Welcome to Trust Relations, the podcast.
I'm here with April, the founder of Trust Relations and the doyen of all things public relations.
And of course, we're joined by the wonderful Hamish, our marketing lead and expert in the space, who I like to call my marketing other half.
We're tackling some of the biggest topics in news and integrated marketing and learning from the mistakes that make headlines or sink brands.
So join us as we have a chat about what works, what doesn't, and what we have to say about all of it.
Hamish Anderson.
Hello, April.
Oh,
Look at you and your energy.
I feel very weird not sitting next to you for a podcast. It's like a very sad day.
You miss me.
I do.
Oh, look, it was nice having you here.
It was much more fun being at the desk that's blurred out in the background. Does it feel like a haunted, ghost of April sitting at this empty desk?
It does. It's I've put a magazine over there with your face there just so it feels like there's someone else in the room.
Every time you come in, you're like, April's not there.
No, cry. I have a big box of tissues here now, and Kleenex so I can wipe my tears. And how are you? You should be full of energy. Tell everybody why.
I won the Gold Stevie Award for Most Innovative Woman of the Year in Advertising, Marketing, and Public Relations on Friday.
Say that again. What award was it? The what color?
It was gold.
Yes, it was.
Oh my God. I was so nervous. I was sitting there. I was like, okay, good news is if I win gold, I win gold, but I have to give a speech. If I don't win gold, I sit here and I don't give a speech in front of 25. So I was like, it's a win-win. It's going to be great.
How was your speech? What did you say?
So I essentially said that, when I started Trust Relations 4 years ago, it was to create the agency I wish existed. One that would leave behind the toxic agency culture and embrace inclusivity wholeheartedly. And also, source the best talent from across the nation and now the globe to create remote teams that best serve clients' needs. And so I said it was like a dream come true that 4 years later, I was standing before everyone and, none of it would have been possible without the amazing team at Trust Relations that saw the vision and believed in it and made it a reality. So
that's monumental.
Thank you.
Is that the right word? It's monumental. It's monumental. And I think it's a testament to not only your vision, but your leadership and the way you've embodied that and put that forward into the company and how everyone else has bought into it. And that's actually meant that your vision has, had somewhere where it's fostered and it's grown and you've been able to achieve what you have because not only do you have the vision, but you lead by example and the people that you've brought on board are as passionate about everything as you are. Everybody,
so much.
3 cheers for April. Hip, hip. Do it with me, people.
Thank you so much. It was a real honor. And I had so much energy and so many nerves by the time I got up there to give my speech, which fortunately you can't tell. I finally today had the courage to watch the video of my acceptance speech. 5 days I couldn't watch it. And finally I watched it. I was like, oh, phew. Okay, it's good.
No, look, you consummate professional as always.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
No,
Yeah,
thank you.
The other funny thing was that I noticed afterwards that I set my award down to give the speech and then just braced myself with both arms on the podium like I was going to fall over.
Well, that's why I said you're full of energy. You're still riding that wave.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But you know what? This is a very good subject for us to discuss today, I think. This is not the first award that you have won, to be honest, is it? This is one of a back catalogue of awards that you started to collect. Kids have trophies and ribbons in their room. April just has business awards. In Campaign Essentials today, can we talk about how to create a strong award or speaking submission? Because you've done a lot of speaking as well as a TEDx talker. So, there's not much you haven't done. Let's learn a little bit. Let's talk about how you can create a strong speaking submission or award submission and impart upon people who are thinking about doing it, whether it's submitting for an award for their business, whether it's for an agency, whether it's to get on the speaking circuit or whatever it might be.
So I would say first and foremost, context, context, context. So yes, you've done these things, but why does it matter to the industry? Why does it matter to the agency? Why does it matter to the world, right? I mean, it's people need to know why what you're doing is important in a greater context. And I think as long as you can show that, more so for awards, even though it's also relevant in speaking submissions, which I'll get into in a minute. But I think what we were successful with was to be able to show, listen, we set out to do this thing that was really different, and this is how we accomplished it. And these are the results, right? And so I think if you can show why it matters to the industry and also those proof points of actually having achieved what the goals were and I mean, that goes for any award submission, right? Even with the PR campaign, a great PR campaign, you say, okay, these were the objectives. This was the strategy. These were the metrics. This was what we achieved. And this is how it measured up against those metrics, right? And if you do that in a really meaningful way, then you have a really, award-winning submission. And
Okay,
so,
but I have a question on that. So we'll come back to that then.
No, let's hear it. What's the question?
So obviously with award submissions, they have pretty stringent guidelines on what you need to answer and what you need to tell them. Yet the beauty of how you can stand out is in weaving your own story into it and showing them the personality that you have. How do you, within the guidelines of or the framework that they set out, have the capacity to shape it into the story that conveys who you are and what you have done in a way that's both authentic, which I know is very important to you, but also then going to stand out?
So I think it's a matter of weaving that narrative throughout, especially because there are a lot of questions that are asked that are disparate. And if you don't have a thread that runs through it, it can start to be really boring. And so I think you need to figure out how do we answer the questions asked, but how do we, after we've done that, go back and massage it so that there is a clear narrative that runs through the whole thing so that it feels like storytelling throughout all of the answers and not just these dry answers that directly answer the question. A lot of that, though, comes from having that narrative clear before you even get to the award submission process. So if you aren't super clear on the narrative of the company, where it started and why, its mission, its North Star, its reason for being, all of those things, right? Those need to be very clear. And then therefore we did this. And then therefore the results of doing that are X, Y, Z, or X, Y, Z, as you guys say, for some weird reason. So I would say,
because we speak English.
It's not a word, it's a letter.
W is two words. It's the only one in the English language which has two words to describe one letter.
But it's a U twice.
Well, it's a V twice, actually, if it's a capital.
Okay, split hairs much?
Well, you have Z and Z. I mean, Z is just as much a word as Z is. Z, B, the letter B is B-E-E, I think. I don't know.
We're going to have to agree to disagree on the Z.
We'll let it go because this is bigger than us.
I'm right. Okay, so does that answer your question, Hamish, about the award submission piece?
Look, I think that really does. I think
okay.
From what you've said, if we'd, as you'd say, put a bow on it, I've noticed it's one of your favorite expressions when we're wrapping something up. It's important that you weave a narrative through your answers. So you're not just answering everything as a stock standard. This is what we did. This is what we did. You're actually starting at the top, figuring out what you want to say, and then pulling that apart and slotting that into the answers that you need to in a way that then conveys a greater message than just what they've asked.
Yep.
Cool. Good tips for everybody. I love it.
So I would say in terms of speaking submissions, it's very similar. There are a couple of things that are slightly different, which is that you want to be speaking about something that other people are not already talking about too much. Doesn't mean that it can't be something that people have spoken about before, but it means that you still need to have a unique angle or point of view or, specific take on
contrarian.
Some kind of take that's a little bit, it doesn't have to be contrarian, but it has to be innovative, unique, creative, interesting, different, in some way, right? So I think for speaking submissions, it's also important as best you can. I mean, and this is a chicken or egg situation, because in those cases, they're more interested in, have you done speaking engagements in the past? Can I see videos? Are you good on stage? Are you good on camera? Are you well-spoken? Are you articulate? Are you compelling? Are you charismatic? Like they want to know all those things in addition to what's on the page. And so it's kind of a matter of figuring out, how do you get those low-hanging fruit speaking opportunities to show, or how do you start a podcast and then have a million versions of that so they know, oh, she does a podcast every week, or she does 3 podcasts every other week, as I did for a while. And I think those kinds of things inspire confidence, that you're confident, with the spoken word, and that you're good on your feet and compelling to listen to. So I think that that's a big piece of those speaking submissions, is having those examples, the same way that getting bigger and bigger gigs as a band requires you to have videos of where you played at the other coffee shop, and then the bigger place, and then the big, and you have to kind of work your way up before they have you at a big show. Again, the narrative is super important of what you think you're going to talk about, but you also, in that case, want to leave them with questions. So it's a little bit different in that you want to leave them with these, what would she say about that? It's a little bit more like a cliffhanger, the end of a season of, Stranger Things, like, oh my God, but what happens to the, you want it to feel like that. The award submission needs to feel very thorough and done, and speaking submission needs to feel a little bit come hither, a little more seductive.
No, that's good. I like that. And I find some of the best talks that I have been to, lectures or otherwise, are the ones where they tease out something that you sort of knew, but they've presented it in a way that makes you go, oh, yes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you didn't ever pull it together that way, you think, oh, yeah, that makes so much sense. I can see how to do that or what to do. So it's not that you go to something and you're suddenly learning how to speak Spanish when you've never done it before, and you're like, I'm so overwhelmed. They've touched on enough of what you know to turn it into something valuable. And that's what I find is really exciting.
So what you're saying, Hamish, also reminds me of great comedy, because a lot of great comedians aren't necessarily telling you something you've never thought of before, but they're phrasing it in a way that, oh my God, I have noticed that, but I've never put it into words. And, and you suddenly have, like Mitch Hedberg was the master of this in my mind, of just taking simple things that you
and Mitch.
I'm obsessed. I once told, this is embarrassing, I once told somebody that if I had a child, I hope that Mitch Hedberg would be reincarnated and come back to Earth as my son.
That's not mostly freaky.
And then they were like, that's really weird. I was like,
yeah.
Oh, I guess it is. But yeah, so just to sort of put a bow on that.
There we go.
To use Hamish's words.
Yeah.
Great speaking submissions and speaking topics. To Hamish's point, a lot of them are crystallizing ideas in a slightly different perspective, point of view, a unique way that just helps bring things to light or to life in a way that they haven't been in the past. So it doesn't have to be contrarian, but at least has to have some kind of an angle that hasn't been widely covered or widely talked about. And then put that into the award submission and leave them wanting more, and voila. And
then start collecting a bucket load of trophies and get a bigger house so that you can keep them all. Understood. Thank you. Good tips.
I didn't tell you I was looking for a bigger house. I'm teasing. I'm not. We have Trena in the waiting room. Was there anything else you want to say before I let her in?
No, I'm excited to meet Trena.
No, how are you?
Good.
Hey,
good to see you again.
Nice to see you. Hello, Hamish.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well. Hey, you're an Aussie.
I am. We're outnumbering April. I'm always on the other side.
All right. So our guest today is Trena Blair, who's the founder and CEO of FD Global Connections. She was recently named the winner of 2 Stevie Awards, 2, 1 gold, 1 silver in the female entrepreneur category. And I'll let her talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And just for reference, more than 1,500 entries were submitted this year for consideration in more than 100 categories. Then the awards were announced in Las Vegas at the 19th Annual Stevie Awards for Women in Business ceremony last Friday, where Trena and I had a great time. And so today we're going to discuss the award ceremony, how we met, the wins that Trena got, these 2 wins, one of which was a very competitive category, and just in general, her career and founder journey and the mission moving forward. So welcome, Trena. Glad to have you.
Oh, wonderful to be here, April. Thank you. And thank you, Hamish. Good to see you as well.
Pleasure and congratulations to you both. But you, Trena, I've congratulated April, but I am literally in the midst of greatness with the 2 of you. So congratulations.
Thank you, Hamish. Yes,
Sweet.
let's not forget that April took out a gold as well. So
She did. That's right.
Yeah, it was a wonderful, wonderful night.
It was really, really something. Yeah. Trena, tell us what the 2 awards were for.
They were for female entrepreneur business services for a company with less than 10 employees. And so one of the awards was for Asia, Australia, and New Zealand for female entrepreneur for APAC, as we say, and the other was global female entrepreneur. And so the gold was for the APAC award and the silver was for the global award.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
Wow.
I know. And there were so many Aussies at the ceremony. It was very funny, actually, because there were a lot of people that weren't there present to get their award. And so then the poor host kept having to say, you know, I'll accept the gold on his or her behalf, right? And it was pretty awkward. But then it was funny because there were, I don't know how many, there were 25, 30 people from Australia that were actually present at the event.
Yeah, there was
their awards.
There was a big contingent there, which was
very big contingency. Yeah. And it's so big that at the end you guys had your photos taken together.
There was a group photo.
A giant group.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, look, I think it actually reflected the fact that the Australian international border only opened in March of this year. You know, Aussies traditionally, and Hamish will attest to this, we're great international travellers and our borders have been locked. And I think we're beginning to see that groundswell of Aussies now getting back at 30,000 feet. There's not only that business desire to get out into the world again, but it's also, we've often not seen our family for 2-3 years.
Did you know any of the other Australian contestants? Have you cross-pollinated paths with any of them?
No, I didn't know any of them. In fact, the only person I knew was April. And that kind of is a lovely story because it was actually through the Stevies that we met when April, after we both found out that we were nominated for an award, April kindly reached out to me and said, hey, I've been nominated as well. And I'm in Sydney. Do you have time for a coffee? And of course, absolutely. But coincidentally, I was actually running the very first, what I call my She Scales Global Network breakfast event that week. And so I invited April to come along to that. So that's where we actually met. And then we caught up again at the Stevies. I had a few drinks afterwards. Yeah, it was lovely.
You had to celebrate, so that makes sense.
Of course.
Can you tell everybody a little bit about what you offer, what your company is built on, and how you fell into doing it?
I think I should have called my company Serendipity, really. I started it 8 years ago, and the backdrop is I lived and worked in New York for a number of years. So my husband was transferred. We moved over and we lived and worked here. And we absolutely love New York. Don't get me started. I can talk all day about it. And so when I returned to Australia in 2014, I qualified as a company director because I thought that that was the next part of my career, which was full-time board portfolio. So I went along to the graduation ceremony, even though I'm not 24 anymore, I still went along. And I sat next to another director and we hadn't met before. And he said to me, so what's your pitch? And I said, payments, travel, lived and worked in New York. As it turned out, his company was a tech company, software, expense management. They built the very first global distribution system in the travels industry. And they needed to establish their office in New York to retain a global bank. And they had nobody to do that. Now, I'd worked in payments, I'd worked in travel, and obviously I'd lived in New York. So that was 2014. I worked for them for 2 years part-time as a consultant. And over the years, a number of businesses heard about this woman that was setting up this New York office for this tech company, flying in and out, doing business development, opening doors, leveraging networks. And word just got out, and the business has gone on from there.
Wow, that's
It's really
serendipity
cool.
is a great name for a company. Otherwise, that's one of those cool stories where you're just the right place, the right time, but obviously with the right experience and the right approach to how to help people.
Yeah. And it was also a lesson around pitching, because literally I had 15 seconds because the speaker was walking up on stage. And so you can't go into, I lived in New York, as I've done with you. It was payments to travel, lived and worked in New York. That was it. And he gave me his business card and said, you need to ring me tomorrow.
Wow.
Mm.
Obviously that 15 seconds changed your life. That's a sliding door moment, isn't it?
It did, absolutely, Hamish. Here I was thinking I'm going down the company director pathway, and here I am. I'm on boards, actually.
I was going to say, are you on any boards?
I am. So yeah, I'm on boards. I'm on advisory boards for a startup, or actually they're a scale up now. They're not a startup. And I do a lot of work to advise companies around governance, and especially early stage companies, which, when you get an ABN and when you take money from family, fools and friends or investors, you need to understand your fiduciary responsibilities under the Corporations Act. And a lot of founders don't understand that. So I do a lot of work in that space as well.
Oh, fantastic. And so I guess that then gives you an avenue as well, once you're helping those startups to move forward and introduce them to the world as well. So you're tying two different areas together very nicely.
Yeah, that's right. So it is primarily scale-ups that I work with. So it's about making sure that they are ready for the United States market. It's a big, complex, yet very compelling market. And it's the dream of every business owner to launch into the United States, and especially New York. And so I work with them to assess and test their ability to scale or expand. So we run that test through their business. We then do their market entry strategy. So that's just deep research on the US market for them, where their customers are, pricing, distribution, and so forth. And then business development. So I've got a number of partners, BD partners in the US that I work with and refer customers to. And the other important piece is about making sure that the Australian companies actually operate legally in the US. So through my network of lawyers, accountants, et cetera, I introduce my clients, to those important connections as well. And they make sure that they've got everything in place for the industry that they operate in.
Now I think we understand why she won 2 awards.
Yeah, I think so.
Speaking of which, how do you think that those awards are going to impact your business moving forward? Do you have any thoughts on how you plan to use them, or what you hope they'll achieve for you with your future goals?
As a micro business, brand is everything. And I remember when I first started, the brand was very much all about getting the client testimonies and doing the case studies and just proving the work that we did. And over the years, we've collected all of that. And I think we've got a really strong brand of trust now. But this is just going to take us to another level. I think it's going to open up some other opportunities, which, people are noticing through LinkedIn, through EDMs and so forth. Oh, trophies. Okay. Then, that's next level. But in terms of the way we think about the business and what we offer and the services, I don't think that's going to change. Our goal is to make sure they achieve their vision, to be commercially successful in the United States. And so that's not going to change. But yeah, it's absolutely going to elevate the brand, and we'll see what it takes us.
So in terms of your company mission and elevating women in business, is there anything else that you want to share about the importance of that, or, anything that we didn't touch on yet around that?
There's a couple of things there, April. So one is, dare to think big. Australia is a small market, 0.33% of the total world's population. It is a small market. And so as you're thinking about your business, dare to dream big.
I love that.
It's very possible to grow any kind of business, expand globally. And my business, I'm a consulting business. I never thought I'd be considered an entrepreneur, actually. As I've reflected on the award and processed what that really means, actually, I am an entrepreneur, because every client we deal with, every client that engages us, we have to think and be curious about their business, be creative in the way that we're going to give them that pathway stateside and ensure their commercial success. That's all entrepreneurship: curiosity, ideating, delivering. So that's number one. Number two is that, I'm a country girl. I grew up on a dairy farm in southwestern Victoria, and my parents invested heavily in my education, which, wouldn't be here without that, obviously. One part of my application was about, what you carry as a child, you can carry through as a business woman. And as a country kid, there are things like trust, respect, integrity, honesty, which you have, in all of your lives, but also growing up on a dairy farm, it is hard work, it is consistent, and these are things that I've carried through with me into my business. So to think about what you grew up with, what were the lessons of your parents that they taught you, and you'll actually find there are lots of lessons there that you still carry, and apply that to your business, because that's your authenticity.
Oh, I love that. God, what
That's
great
really good.
advice. Really good. There's a whole, I don't know if you're doing speaking engagements around that topic, but you should be.
Oh, okay, thank you, April.
That's a good one. I haven't heard people talk about that. That's so we were just earlier talking about, how to do a good speaking submission or word entry. And I think that would be an amazing speaking submission.
When we leave school, we obviously go out into the world and we want to fit in, we try to modify ourselves to fit into those communities and clique groups and so forth. But I think as you get older and as you realize that actually no one else is going to do my story, no one else is going to do my life journey, that's up to me. And reflecting on, so what does that really look like? Where did that begin? And for me, it was growing up in the country, and that what that taught me, and then, as I say, carrying that through into my business.
I love that. Yeah. It's when you say that, I immediately start thinking, what are the lessons I learned from my parents growing up in Iowa, which is also farm country of the US, right? In the middle of the country, the lessons that I carried that I apply to the business. There's something really interesting about that. Well, what's next for you in 2023? Anything you can share?
No.
It's a secret. Shh.
There is a new partnership which I'm really excited about, which I'm not able to announce as yet, but I will hopefully soon. Actually, two things that we will be launching in 2023. So one is we're automating that global scalability audit.
Oh, cool.
Cool.
It's going to be a really content rich that businesses can use to help them with assessing their scalability. So that's going to come out mid-year, I'd say.
Okay. Exciting.
So, and the other piece is, the She Scales Global Network has been just a network of the heart. It's these amazing women in Australia that are scaling internationally. So they've been through those startup hard years, and they're all looking now to go offshore, and many of them are offshore. But we're now doing a little bit more work. We're going to have a dedicated website, a lot more content, a lot more virtual events, just be a little bit more formalized about it. So again, we'll be launching that next year as well.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So final question is actually a two-part question, which is, do you have any questions for us? And how can people reach you? Anything else you want to plug?
Questions for you. Tell me about your partnership. April, you're in the US. Hamish, you're in Australia. I'm curious to know about your partnership and how's that working? How did you meet each other?
So we actually met on a networking platform called Lunch Club that during the pandemic, a lot of people were networking that way because there was no other way to network, right? We're all stuck in our houses for however long. and had a great chat, made him come back as a podcast guest because I was so intrigued by his approach to marketing and branding, and then invited him to a group of agency owners that I put together. There was one group where I expressed having difficulties with PR metrics, which is a whole other long story, but Hamish said, oh, I could help with that. And so we sidebarred on that and had a chat. And then that kind of evolved into more and more of a chat, and then more and more integration. And here we are.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And I think that the key has been recognizing that for too long, the two different arms of broad spectrum marketing, being PR and marketing itself, have been operating in silos. And we recognized, well, that doesn't have to be the case. There's a lot more advantage when you have cohesive platform for your messaging and things are tied together. And when they are tied together and you go to market, people have a better understanding of who you are, what you stand for, and what you're going to deliver to them. Yes. And we recognize that, okay, if we can lean into that and help clients understand that, then there's going to be financial gains for them in terms of they've got one agency, they're not spreading their resources too far. But more than that, they've got this platform to talk to people that's going to resonate, and that's going to have greater returns for them as well. So when we recognized that we could bring it all in and offer this more comprehensive solution to people, we were like, why haven't we thought of this before? And it just sort of serendipity as well, the way that we met, but it's really just flourished. And without plugging ourselves, clients are loving it. So it's great.
By the way.
Look, it's what it's about, isn't it? It's telling people that, we understand your points of pain. We know why you're awake at night. We know what's causing you to have heartache or concern. And this is how we can partner with you to solve that.
Oh, that's really great. It's all about partnership, isn't it? And actually, I'm seeing a lot more partnerships over the last year, I think, because, well, particularly for Australians, very difficult to get out of the country and do their own BD. They're actually looking for searching businesses that can leverage them into the market, and that's through partnership. So you're both ahead of the game on that one.
Well, good to know. Yeah, we just sort of kind of fell into it, but
that's the way it goes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When it all unfolds organically like that, it's awesome.
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I know, Trena, we're a little over time, and I know you're super busy, and I want to let you go back to enjoying New York City.
Good. Well, thank you for your time. As April said, really enjoyed having you on. Some wonderful gems there that you've shared with us. So thank you. Good to meet a podcast guest who, as I said, is on my side of the ocean. So look forward to it.
I know I'm finally outnumbered on the Z versus Z argument we had earlier.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, April, for the opportunity.
Right.
I've really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. And congratulations again.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, Trena.
Thanks so much, Trena.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye. That was an awesome special guest.
It was an awesome special guest. Thank you
She
so
was
much,
wonderful.
Trena, for joining us. And thank you, listeners, as well. You can catch the show wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Now, please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show to keep the good content coming your way and to help us grow our community of communicators.
But before we sign off, we can't forget about this week's offer code, Hamish.
Visit the link in the show notes below and use Trust Analysis 18 for a chance to win a trust analysis for the first who enter. New clients qualify and terms and conditions apply. You can check out our webpage for a full rundown of the offer details.
It was so good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hamish gets gold.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Normal.
Bye.
No, normal.
Goodbye.
Still not normal.
So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye.
Okay, you're cut off. Bye.
Bye.
You didn't hear it yet?
No, not me. Tell everybody else. This was a leading question.
Oh, sorry. Derp.
We're on a podcast. I don't know if you know that. This is not just a fireside chat. As much as you have the fire on in the background, we're doing a bit more.
And
But yes, sad to
have you enjoyed using my conditioner and my Epsom bath salts?
the rose scented, the rose water scented bath salts. It's not generally my speed, but geez, I smell good.
So you have used them.
Oh yes, I've got soft skin and a very supple back now.
Oh, wow.
I know. Yes.
Oh,
it's
what a
been-
picture you paint.
No, I know. For everyone out there, imagine. No, don't imagine it. Just save yourselves your breakfast.